Good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023. Have some birthdays and some big events. So we'll get to the big events first. On this date in 1973, Cuckoo Marlin records his only NASCAR career win in a qualifying race at Daytona. And at this time, they weren't paying points and they weren't official starts. So Cuckoo did get some extra money, did get a trophy, but no official win. On this date in 1981, Richard Petty wins his seventh and final Daytona 500 and the first Daytona 500 run with the downsize cars for that season. 1990, Dale Earnhardt wins the 125 qualifying race at Daytona, and this would mark the first of 10 consecutive qualifying races that Dale would win that decade. And of course, we touched about it earlier, that little diecast sitting back there. Today is the 25th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt's victory in the Daytona 500. And also on this date, his son in 2004 did win the Daytona 500 for the first time as well. So kind of ironic, they both won their first Daytona 500s for Dale. It was his only for Dale Jr., his first two, but they both won their first on the same date. Now, as far as birth dates, got a few of them here. Born on this date in 1929, Formula One legend Graham Hill. Born on this date in 1936, former NASCAR crew chief Freddie Fryer. I know Freddie is not an incredibly big name to you guys, but if you go back and you watch some ARCA races from the early 90s, there was a seal test car. It was a seal test sponsored Buick, usually number 11, sometimes number 31. It was owned by Clint Folsom. Dave Mader drove it. A few other folks drove it. Freddie Fryer was the crew chief, and that car was always bad fast every time it hit the track. Freddie did have a brief Cup career as well. Crew chiefing, I know, for the Highland Myers team briefly. Also, born on this date, 1942, Dewey Livingood. He was a crew chief for Billy Hagan's team with Terry Labonte for a little while. He has a couple cards, just didn't take the time because we've got a few other drivers here that I wanted to kind of focus on. But Dewey Livingood, not to take anything away from him, but there's only a couple cards that I would have had. But starting with our drivers born on this date in 1988, we seen him earlier this afternoon with the several cards in that Chronicles Blaster Box rip. But Jade Buford, like I said, don't like to hit rookie cards a lot for this, but when this is his first year, as far as having cards, or 2022 was, of course, Jade no longer full-time driver for this team. Parker Kligerman is, and Jade will run a couple of races for Big Machine Racing. Born on this date in 1989, former Truck Series driver. He's kind of a prospect for a little bit and then kind of faded away. Not sure exactly what happened, but Mr. Tayler Malsam. So kind of had Toyota a little bit there, a little bit of support. Looks like TriStar Motorsports there, obviously the 19. I believe that was Xfinity for just a brief, or Nationwide for just a brief run, just a hiccup. Things really didn't pan out, and there's so many drivers back in that period of time from, let's say, late 90s to early 2010s, where the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series was just inundated with Cup drivers, and Tayler was one of them that kind of got lost in the shuffle. There was a lot of moving parts and pieces, and there's a nice magenta, but there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. Is that a blue? That is a blue parallel. A lot of moving parts and pieces, and many drivers just couldn't come up with funding, or they would lose their ride to a more experienced Cup driver, or a Cup driver bringing more funding. And that's what happens when the business part of NASCAR kicks in. Today's big birthday, born on this date in 1957, former Cup Series regular, multiple time winner in the Xfinity Series, 2 career Cup wins, Mr. Excitement, Jimmy Spencer. So I'm going to kind of do these cards aren't going to be in chronological order, but the pictures, for the most part, will be in chronological order. So, of course, in 1990, we're going to go by the picture and not the card. 1990, he was driving for Rod Osterlund, his second full season. Of course, 1989, Partway through the season, Buddy Baker tapped him to drive the 88 car. But in 1990, he was released from Osterland's team, moved over to Travis Carter, replacing Butch Miller in the 98 car. Had a top 5 and 4 or 5 top 10s that year. Had a really strong year. There you kind of see the banquet car there in the background. There he is. 1992 rolls around. Banquet leaves. They get Molly Black Gold as sponsorship. Part of the way, I believe Molly Black Gold quit sending checks, or the checks started bouncing. Jimmy was left without a ride near the end of the year. He goes to the 12 car, replacing Hut Strickland. Jimmy has 3 top 5s in the last 4 races in 92 in the Ray Bestis car. Then he picks up Meineke for 93 as a sponsor. I think he finishes 12th in points, probably his best and Bobby Allison's best career as an owner and a driver. 94, he goes to Junior Johnson with the McDonald's sponsorship. Picks up his first win at Daytona and his second and final win a few weeks later at Talladega. 1995, he moves over back to Travis Carter, which was kind of a stepchild Junior Johnson team at the time. Smoking Joe's Camel cigarettes, basically. Jimmy was one of the last drivers to campaign with an open face helmet. Then the team Winston came on board. They just switched out from Camel to Winston. Still R.J. Reynolds Tobacco. Then when the tobacco and the master settlement agreement and everything was starting to go down, Kmart stepped in. They changed the number from 23 to 26. Then Jimmy changed department stores and he went to work for Target. So apparently he didn't like what Kmart was paying. So we have another Target there. One of many Target drivers, of course, Reed Sorensen, Kyle Larson. Who else drove the Target car? Casey Mears. So there's a handful of drivers that drove that 41/42 car. Regan Smith drove it for one race when Kyle Larson had, I believe, a blackout spell at Martinsville back in, 2015 or thereabouts. Then he went, got Mongo on his chest with the Sirius XM folks. And then after that, his Cup career kind of fizzled. Ran a few one-offs with like Arnold Motorsports and a couple other teams. And then he was a stalwart in the Busch Series for many years, driving his own team. Here he is with a Zippo uniform. Now, I do have some car cards I wanted to show you of Spencer. And again, I did these chronologically in order of pictures best I could. But Jimmy started in the modified series. Look at that. Wearing, of course, now this picture was in 94, but this is where his career got started. Look at that. He's in an open face helmet in a modified car. Come on, that's just downright crazy. So there's the banquet car that he ran, and the car was fast. It just, not one of my, the car looked second rate. I mean, just the paint job was awful. It just did not look like a fast car, but it did. There's the Molly Black Gold car we spoke of. They quit paying or something happened, and they had to shut the team down shortly after Talladega in May. Always like this scheme. I like the way that the numbers flip-flop the colors of the car. NASCAR probably didn't like that, but they let them do it. Then we have the McDonald's car. 2 career wins with that car. There's a nice, this is 94 Power. I believe this might be the preview set, and you can see it's kind of that cracked ice look. So they had that going way back when. Actually, no, it's just the some kind of parallel. There's the Camel car, the Smokin' Joe. Joe Camel on the hood, of course. There's another view of the Camel car. Now, as you see, I believe in the other picture, yeah, it says Camel on the fenders, and over here it says Smokin' Joe's Racing. So just the different marketing campaigns that Camel cigarettes had. There's the Winston Noble paint scheme. I believe the other Winston car that I have here is pretty much the same, yeah. Just a little slightly different angle of the car. And then I had one of the Kmart car. I might have had a couple more buried, but we do get the base Kmart car and a special paint scheme with the Mummy Returns. Then our final one here, we did have a Target car. That was probably my least favorite Target scheme. It just made the car look very dated. I think they needed to change the font of the numbers to make it look different. Plus the paint scheme just did not fit the early 2000s, in my opinion. That paint scheme would have been perfect back in the late 80s, early 90s. It did not fit 2002 very well, in my opinion. But anyway, happy birthday to all those folks today. Hope they all have great days. and if they're no longer with us, that their families carry on their memories as well. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. This has been a fun series. You guys seem to be liking it. Trying to dig deep into my collection here to find some of the ones, find some unique cards, find some cards that you folks may have never seen before too. Doesn't have to be a rare card, doesn't have to be a high dollar card. Just has to be something that's, hey, I don't remember seeing that. Kind of an Easter egg, or just a Mandela effect. That's what we're looking for. Kind of like almost a Mandela effect, that you don't remember seeing it, but it was always there. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave some comments down below. Tell me what your favorite cards were today. And thanks again for watching, and we will see you later.